He beat me in public, then he found out I'm Steven Seagal's daughter *. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
I never thought that one ordinary evening would turn into the kind of night I'd never forget. I mean, it was just another day for me. I had finished my shift at the cafe I work at, the kind of place where you know every regular's order by heart. I was tired, my feet aching from standing all day, but I liked my routine. There was comfort in it. I zipped up my jacket, slung my bag over my shoulder, and stepped out into the cool night air. The streets smelled faintly of rain, even though the clouds overhead hadn't broken yet. The street I walked down was quiet, just how I liked it. The same cracked sidewalk I'd walked 100 times before. The same dim street lights flickering softly. Everything felt normal, safe. And honestly, I wanted nothing more than to get home, make myself a cup of tea, and curl up in bed. That was all I thought about. But then something happened. Something I wasn't prepared for. As I walked, I noticed something unusual. A small crowd gathered in the distance, not far from where I was. At first, I thought it was maybe some sort of argument or people watching something small happen. I slowed my pace, curiosity nudging me forward. As I drew closer, I realized it wasn't small at all. It was a scene. A girl she looked maybe my age was on the ground. Her clothes were torn, her breathing was ragged, uneven, and there were people standing around her, looking at her like she was some kind of exhibit. I froze, unsure if I should step closer or walk away. My instinct screamed that something was wrong. My heart beat harder with every step I took forward. The crowd wasn't helping her. Nobody was offering aid. Some people were whispering. Others just stared. There was something wrong about the way they looked at her. Then I heard a man's voice, loud and sharp. "She shouldn't be here," he shouted. His words weren't gentle. They were full of anger, accusation, and the crowd seemed to agree. The murmuring grew louder. People nodded. Some stepped forward, some stepped back. The air felt thick with tension. I wanted to stop. I wanted to turn around and go home. But something inside me pulled me closer. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know what had happened. But she was hurt. And she was alone. That made my chest ache. As I got closer, I could hear her whimpers. Her eyes darted around, looking for anyone who would help her. But there was only silence. And then a sharp shout broke through and a fist struck her. It happened so fast, a sudden noise of shock from the crowd. Gasps. People recording with their phones. The sound of voices rising in chaos. And my feet moved without me deciding. I pushed through the crowd. My breathing was heavy. My hands were trembling. When I reached her, our eyes met. There was something in her gaze that stopped me cold. Fear, shame, confusion, and something else, pleading. I wanted to kneel beside her to help her up. But I stopped myself. I barely knew her. And yet, in that moment, I felt I knew her pain. Then, a voice rang out again. Louder this time. "She's not who you think she is." The crowd froze. Phones clicked. Whispers became louder, questions breaking out. Heads turned toward her, and I felt my stomach drop. The silence after that statement was unbearable. No one knew what to say. No one moved. My mind was racing. What did he mean? Who was she? And why did no one help her sooner? That's when I realized this wasn't just a street fight. This wasn't random. This was something much deeper. Something I couldn't explain yet. But I knew I had to find out. And in that moment, I understood that my life was about to change forever. I didn't move right away. I just stood there, my legs rooted to the cracked pavement, staring at her. Around me, the crowd was still buzzing, some whispering urgently, others filming with their phones. I could feel the weight of every pair of eyes, some filled with curiosity, others with judgment. But I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at her. She was still on the ground, her breaths coming in uneven bursts. Her hands clutched at her jacket as if it could shield her from whatever was happening. I stepped closer, and for a second I thought about asking if she was okay. But the words caught in my throat, because there was something strange in the air, something I couldn't name. That's when I heard a voice whisper behind me, "You shouldn't get involved." I turned slightly. A man, tall, his face half hidden in shadow, was watching me. His tone wasn't threatening, but it wasn't neutral either. It was warning. I shook my head, telling myself I wasn't going to turn away. Not this time. I crouched down beside her, careful not to crowd her. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked softly. No answer. Her eyes flicked to me for just a second before darting away again. Her breathing was shaky, her body tense. She seemed broken. Then, without warning, someone stepped forward from the crowd, a man whose voice was sharp and commanding. "Move back! You don't know what's going on here." That snapped something inside me. I wanted to shout at him. I wanted to tell him to step aside. But instead, I just looked down at her again. She flinched when his voice rose, and my heart sank. I knew right then that this wasn't just a random attack. This was something deeper. As I helped her to her feet, her hand brushed mine. It was light, almost accidental, but the weight of it stayed with me. I could feel her trembling. She didn't speak, but her eyes told me everything: fear, confusion, and pain. The man from the crowd stepped even closer now, blocking my path. "You shouldn't be here. She doesn't belong here." His words were sharp, like a blade cutting into the night. I felt a knot in my stomach. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling more than I expected. He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned closer to her, and something in their interaction made the air feel heavier. Then he said something I'll never forget. "She's not just anyone. She's someone they didn't want you to see." The crowd gasped. Phones rose higher. Whispers turned into questions. I looked at her. Alish. I now realized her name was, her face pale, eyes wide. And in that moment, I understood. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about her being hurt. It was about who she was. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Her breathing quickened. The tension in her shoulders was sharp enough that I could see it even in the low light. I reached out instinctively, placing my hand gently on her arm. She looked at me like I was the only safe thing in the chaos. Then someone shouted from the back of the crowd, "She's Steven Seagal's daughter!" The words echoed through the street like a thunderclap. Everything froze. I swear, even the air stopped moving. People stared. Phones stopped recording for a moment. I could see the shock, confusion, and disbelief on every face. She didn't react at first, just stood there trembling. Then her lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something, but she couldn't. And that's when I realized this wasn't just an attack. This was the kind of moment where life changes forever. The man who had stepped forward earlier shoved his way closer to her. His face was red, his voice rising with anger. "You think your name changes what happened. This is not about you." The crowd grew louder, some shouting in agreement, others trying to calm things down. The noise became overwhelming. My chest felt tight. My head was spinning. I didn't know what to do except stand there and watch as the scene unfolded. I wanted to scream, to tell them all to stop, but the words didn't come. Instead, I felt a pull inside me, something telling me that I had to stay, that I couldn't walk away from this moment. And then it hit me like a punch to the chest. Whatever happened tonight, whoever she was, this wasn't just her story. This was a moment that exposed something much bigger, something hidden under fear, prejudice, and anger. That realization hit harder than the fear in her eyes. And I knew my life was no longer the same. I still remember the sound of the crowd that night. It was this strange mix of murmurs, sharp gasps, and the quiet hum of phones recording every second. Everything felt heavier. The air seemed thicker, almost hard to breathe. I stood frozen, my mind spinning, staring at her. Alec rose, watching her try to gather herself while the tension around us grew like a storm about to break. She was leaning against the wall now, her jacket clutched tightly around her like it was the only shield left in the world. Her breathing was uneven, shallow, like she was afraid to take a full breath in case it made the world collapse around her. And honestly, I think it was. The man who had shouted before now stepped back, but his eyes never left her. His expression was something I couldn't read: anger, fear, disgust, maybe all at once. A few others in the crowd began murmuring louder. Some were whispering her name, others repeating what they had heard. Steven Seagal's daughter. Those words had hit me like a shockwave, and they clearly hit everyone else the same way. I could see people in the crowd exchanging looks, some curious, some scared, some disgusted. I wanted to step forward and say something, anything. But my voice felt stuck. I felt powerless, like the air around me had become thick glue. Then Alec looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying yet. She just stared. And I swear, in that moment, there was this silent plea, not for me to help her physically, but to help her survive this moment. I didn't know her. Not really. But my gut told me this was bigger than one night. This was something dangerous. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos again. This time sharper, colder. You don't understand. This isn't just an accident. This isn't random. Heads turned. A few people stepped back. Alec's body stiffened. I felt my own stomach twist. I asked her softly, "What happened?" She shook her head quickly, like she was trying to push the thought away. But then her voice came out low, trembling. They don't want me here. They don't want the truth out." I blinked. My breath caught. My mind raced. Who? Why? What truth? Before I could ask more, the man who had been blocking us stepped forward again. His face was tense. "Enough. You don't know what you're dealing with." But it wasn't just about words anymore. The tension was growing into something physical. People in the crowd were starting to press closer, drawn toward the drama like moths to fire. Some phones were recording louder now, their flashes blinking in the night like lightning. Alec looked at me again, and for the first time, she spoke clearly. "Please, don't walk away." Her voice was so quiet it almost got lost in the noise. But I heard it, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about curiosity now. This was about something I had to face, no matter the risk. I stepped closer to her. The crowd parted slightly, not because they cared, but because the tension was too thick. Her hand found mine. Her grip was desperate. I could feel the tremor running through her fingers. And it wasn't just fear of what happened, it was fear of what was coming. The man from earlier shouted again, louder this time. "Stop this now, before it's too late." But no one stopped. No one moved. Phones kept recording. People kept whispering, and I swear, I could see it in her eyes, the realization that she was trapped in something far worse than just a fight in the street. And then, without warning, everything changed. A sudden shout, a burst of movement, a loud crash as someone shoved forward. The crowd split, and in the chaos, Alakik was pulled backward. I reached for her, but my hand only caught air. She disappeared for a moment behind the throng of people. My heart was pounding in my chest. I pushed forward, trying to follow, but a wall of bodies blocked me. Somewhere behind me, someone shouted her name again, and then someone else said it louder. This isn't just her story anymore. This is everyone's story. I froze in that moment, my heart racing, breath caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. And deep inside I knew we were no longer spectators to this. We were part of it. I had no idea how far this night would go, but I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same after this. The air still felt heavy when I finally broke through the crowd. My chest was pounding, and I could taste the sharp tang of adrenaline in my mouth. Somewhere ahead, I saw her Alec, pressed against a wall, her back trembling as she tried to pull herself together. Her jacket was torn at the shoulder, and there were smudges of dirt on her face. But what I noticed most was her eyes. They were wild and haunted, and somehow pleading at the same time. I stepped toward her slowly, like she might vanish if I moved too fast. "Alec?" I said softly. My voice sounded strange to me, almost swallowed by the chaos around us. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she just looked away, scanning the crowd like she was expecting something or someone. I wanted to ask her what happened, but there was this fear in her eyes that stopped me. It wasn't fear of me. It was fear of something bigger, something she couldn't explain. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "They're still watching. They always are." The words sent a chill down my spine. I glanced around. The crowd had shifted. Phones were still out, recording. But now, the faces around us seemed more tense, almost uneasy. People were stepping back. There was something in the air, something unspoken, dangerous. "Who?" I asked. My voice sounded sharper now, more urgent. She hesitated. Then her voice cracked. "The ones who control what people see. They don't want me to tell you. They don't want this to get out. But I can't keep quiet anymore." Her words hit me like a punch. I stared at her, my mind trying to process what she was saying. What was she talking about? And why did she look like her life depended on me believing her? Before I could respond, there was a sudden shift in movement in the crowd that made my stomach drop. Someone stepped forward. A man I hadn't noticed before. He looked calm, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the people around him like he was hunting for something. Alec's grip on my arm tightened. "They've found me," she said. Her voice trembled, and I could hear the panic beneath it. The man stepped closer. His presence felt heavy, commanding. "Alec rose," he said clearly, almost too calmly. "You don't belong here tonight." Her eyes widened, and she pulled away from me. "No," she said firmly. "I belong right here. I need people to know." He shook his head slowly. "You're in danger. This ends tonight." I could feel my own heart racing. I wanted to step in, to say something, but my body froze. The tension between them was almost unbearable. Around us, the crowd was holding its breath. Phones still out, people still watching, but no one was moving. Then, without warning, she pushed past him. "No," she repeated. "Not until the world hears the truth." The crowd reacted instantly. Some gasped, some shouted, some moved forward to stop her. But it was like she had tunnel vision. She kept moving forward, as if drawn by some invisible force. The man lunged after her, grabbing her arm. She twisted away, slipping past him with a speed that shocked me. I could see the panic in his eyes now, the way his jaw tightened. And then, she was gone. The crowd erupted into noise. Phones flashed, people shouting, some running. My own breath came fast and jagged. I tried to push forward, but the crowd was too thick, and every step felt heavier. Somewhere behind me, I heard her voice. It wasn't loud, just a faint call. But it was enough to make my head snap toward the sound. "Don't stop," she said. "They can't win if we keep watching." And just like that, she disappeared into the night. I stood there, breathless, my hands shaking. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. I didn't know what had just happened, but I knew I had been pulled into something far bigger than I understood. Something dangerous. Something that would change everything. As the crowd began to disperse, I felt an ache deep in my chest. A mix of fear, confusion, and this strange burning need to keep going. To follow her. To know the truth. I couldn't shake the words she had said. They don't want this to get out. And then the thought hit me like a wave. I had just witnessed the moment where a choice was made. Not by me, but by her. A choice to stand up. To risk everything for something unseen. And now, I had a choice too. The night air felt heavier now. The noise of the crowd had faded, replaced by a deep, unsettling silence that pressed into my chest. My legs felt leaden, but somehow I moved forward, following nothing but the echo of her words. They don't want this to get out. Those words kept repeating in my head, pulling me forward like a compass I couldn't ignore. I found myself walking through narrow streets, the kind that swallowed sound, the kind where shadows clung to every wall. Somewhere ahead, I thought I heard movement, soft, hurried steps. My heart began to race again. It was her, Alec. I knew it. I could feel it in my bones. As I turned the corner, I saw her, standing in the dim light of a flickering street lamp. Her breath came in sharp bursts, her eyes wide and restless. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring down the road, like she was waiting for something or someone. When she finally noticed me, she gave the smallest, almost exhausted smile. "You came," she said softly. "I had to," I replied without thinking. "What's going on, Alec? What did he mean? Who's after you?" She shook her head, her hair falling into her face. "It's complicated, but I can't run anymore. Not when I'm this close." Her voice was trembling now, but there was steel behind it. They've been covering this up for years, and I'm the last piece. I stepped closer. "The last piece of what?" Her eyes locked with mine. "The truth." Before I could speak again, a sound broke the air. A low rumble, like a warning. Behind us, a shadow moved. Slow, deliberate. My chest tightened. I glanced around, but the street was empty, or so it seemed. She grabbed my hand suddenly, her grip firm, pulling me closer. "We don't have much time." She began walking faster, pulling me into a deserted alley. My mind raced fear, confusion, curiosity. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but I couldn't. I wanted to know what she'd risked everything to protect. We stopped at the end of the alley. There was a small door tucked into the brick wall, almost invisible. Alec pressed her hand against it, whispering something I couldn't hear. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. Without hesitation, she stepped inside. I followed. The air grew colder as we descended. The sound of her footsteps echoed. I could feel her trembling beside me, but she kept going. Her determination was magnetic, pulling me deeper into whatever this was. At the bottom, we entered a dimly lit room filled with papers, photographs, and recordings scattered across tables. A single lamp cast shadows over everything, making the scene feel like a secret waiting to be uncovered. "This," she said, gesturing to the table, "is what they don't want people to see." Her voice was steady now, filled with quiet anger. She began pointing to photographs, faces, documents, events, all pieces of something much bigger. "They control the stories, Alec. They decide what truth gets told." I stared at the table, my breath catching. The evidence was overwhelming. Names, places, dates, all pointing to a truth so dangerous that I understood why she had been targeted. Suddenly, footsteps echoed above us. Alec froze. "They found us," she whispered. Her eyes darted to the door. Without a word, she grabbed a folder and thrust it into my hands. "Take this. Get it out there. You have to make them hear." I wanted to protest, to ask her what would happen to her, but before I could speak, the door above slammed open. A figure stepped inside. It was him, the man who had chased her earlier. His eyes locked on her. She stood tall, unflinching. "You can't stop this," she said, her voice loud enough to echo. He stepped forward and everything seemed to freeze. The air was charged, thick with something that felt like destiny. And then, she stepped toward him. Not with fear, but with purpose. "I will not be silenced." There was a moment so sharp it felt like the world paused. And then chaos. I didn't see exactly what happened next. There was shouting, movement, noise, a blur of arms and voices. But when it cleared, she was gone. And so was he. I stood there, clutching the folder in my hands, my breath ragged, heart pounding. The room felt emptier but heavier somehow, like it was filled with truth too dangerous to ignore. I walked out into the cold night, clutching that folder like a lifeline. My mind was a storm, fear, confusion, but also something else. A quiet, fierce determination. Because now I knew what Alec risked everything for. This wasn't just her story. It was ours. The world needed to know. And as I stepped into the darkness, I whispered to myself, almost like a promise, they can't stop the truth. Because in the end, the truth has a way of finding its voice. And the question that stayed with me long after that night was this: how many more Alec Roses will have to stand up before the world finally listens?